There is a truth that very few people are brave enough to face. When life starts to fall into chaos, when relationships begin to crack, when you feel yourself being pulled away from everything familiar, it may not be a sign of failure at all. It is a calling from the sacred part within you. Being chosen by God is not the moment when a ray of light touches your forehead. It is more often the feeling that life is peeling away your layers, forcing you to look at the dark parts of yourself you have always avoided. In Jung's language, when the self awakens, the ego begins to tremble. You become lost in your own old life, as if you had outgrown that space long ago without ever realizing it. This is not a gentle journey. It is both sacred and frightening. But every woman chosen by God, in the Jungian sense, must pass through the narrow gate of her own soul. The isolation, the losses, the invisible battles are all simply signs that you are being prepared for a greater role, a deeper and more authentic version of yourself. And if these things are touching you right now, pause for a moment. Maybe you are not reading these lines by accident. Maybe you are standing on the edge of something vast that even you yourself have not yet named. So what are the 7 signs that you are a chosen woman? Walk with me into this truth. Your journey has only just begun. Sign 1. You are set apart from the crowd without choosing it. There are moments in life when you stand in a crowded room, yet feel as if no one is really there. You laugh, you talk, you join in the conversation. But deep inside there is an invisible distance you cannot cross. It is not that you lack social skills. It is not that you are bad at fitting in. It is simply that there is a layer of transparent air surrounding you, turning you into a spectator of your own life. This separation is not something you chose, it chose you. In Jungian psychology, this is not a strange phenomenon. Some people are called back to their inner life earlier than others. When the energy of the self begins to move, it gently pulls you away from the roles you have grown used to wearing. You no longer fit into empty conversations, noisy amusements, relationships that exist just to fill time. You feel you no longer belong there, even though you once felt connected, once had fun, and once were comfortable. That confusion, that sense of disorientation is not a problem to fix. It is the first signal of awakening. Remember this: when a person steps closer to their true being, they naturally become unable to dissolve into old structures. Like a bird growing new feathers, it can no longer live forever in the cage it once called home. You may still be there physically, but your mind has gone beyond it. You may still sit in a gathering, but your soul is watching how everyone is desperately trying to hide their loneliness behind laughter. It is in that moment that you begin to feel different. You once tried very hard to blend in, but the more you tried, the more you felt yourself disappearing. You started blaming yourself. Why can't I be like them? Why can't I feel comfortable with what everyone else seems to enjoy? What you did not know is that this discomfort is a calling that slowly pulls you away from the places you no longer belong. Jung calls this the stage of separating from the persona, the social mask. Most people live their whole lives inside those masks, weighed down by expectations and roles. But there are some who, even without wanting to, are forced to remove theirs earlier, not because they are weak, but because their soul demands truth. And truth, when it arrives, usually brings loneliness with it. You may recall moments like that. A group of friends you were once close to suddenly feels distant. A relationship that once made you excited now leaves you silent. Conversations that once made you laugh now leave you empty. You feel as if you are standing at the edge of your old life, looking in, unable to go back. This is not a loss. This is evolution. A follower of the channel once confided in me. She worked in an office that was always noisy, always full of things to discuss, to argue over, to divide into sides. She used to fit in very well, even being the one who knew every piece of drama in the company. But one day she realized she could no longer endure the same recycled conversations, the petty competitive stories, the meetings where everyone wanted to prove they were right, yet no one truly listened to anyone else. She was not angry, just empty. as if her soul was being drained every time she had to pretend to be interested in things that no longer resonated with her. From that moment, she began to quietly withdraw. No more lunch with large groups, no more just for fun hangouts. Instead, she spent time alone in the park near the office, or sat reading, or simply sat still and breathed until she felt her heart return to its own rhythm. She said the silence allowed her to hear the voice within, the voice that had long been drowned out by noise and expectations. You may have felt these things very early in life. As a child, you did not enjoy the games other kids enjoyed. Growing up, you felt exhausted by things others considered fun. And as an adult, you realized there are not many people like you, sometimes none at all. This made you wonder, is there something wrong with me? But in reality, it is a sign that you belong to a different kind of journey. Perhaps this is the moment you offer yourself a brief pause. Breathe in deeply and ask, why do these words land so precisely inside me? Where does this feeling come from the past, from intuition, or from a part of your soul you have never dared to open? Sometimes just stopping for a few seconds like that is enough for you to finally hear what you have long been skipping over. This separation is the first confirmation, a quiet but powerful affirmation. You no longer belong to the old. You are stepping into a world that is wider, deeper, and more real. And this journey has only just begun. Sign 2. You walk through wounds that others cannot understand, and as a silent law of the soul, once you step away from the crowd, life begins to push to the surface things you thought you had left behind. Wounds you thought you had forgotten, pains you never named, experiences you believed only you had to carry. Others look at you and cannot understand why you are so deep, so sensitive, so easily hurt. But the truth is, they were not the ones who lived through the storms you have survived. In Jungian depth psychology, those who are called into the journey of individuation are often forced to face the shadows that most people try to avoid, not because they are weak, but because their soul has a greater capacity to endure. And it is precisely that endurance that makes them the ones who must walk the roughest roads. Your wounds are not random. They are like the strong impact points of life, pounding on the doors of deeper layers that were once asleep in the unconscious. There are pains you cannot explain to anyone. You once trusted someone with all your heart, only for them to betray you in a way your heart could never have prepared for. You once placed your hope in something, someone, or some future, and then it shattered right before your eyes. Or you had to endure silences, injustices, and hurtful words with no one stepping in to protect you. Those things did more than hurt you. They changed you as if old layers of skin were being stripped away, revealing new skin that is raw and more sensitive than ever. And sometimes you ask yourself, why do I have to endure so much? Why does pain keep finding me? But seen through Jung's lens, this becomes clearer. Souls being prepared for a deep journey never have a smooth path. They must face their wounds to open the door to healing. Jung calls this the wounded healer, the one who heals through their own wounds, the one who can touch another's pain because they have walked through it themselves. A follower once shared with me a story I still remember. Her life was marked by loss after loss. Her father died early. Her mother was always busy, and there was never truly warmth in the family. As she grew up, she loved a man with all her heart, but he left right when she believed she had found home. There were nights she lay still in the dark, hearing only her heartbeat and questions with no answer. She once thought God had abandoned her. But when she began studying Jung, she realized those cracks were precisely where the light could enter. You may have been like her. You have endured more than you dare to admit, times when you were misunderstood, judged unfairly, looked down on. Times when you stayed silent under the weight of wounds others caused, then walked away as if nothing had happened. What no one knows is that you did not just survive it, you learned from it. You grew from it. That has given you a depth that not everyone possesses. From a sacred perspective, your wounds take on another shape. It is as if God did not hand you pain to break you, but to open in you a new capacity: compassion, resilience, understanding. These things can only be formed through experience, not through advice or theory. When God wants to use someone, He forges them in fire, not to burn them down, but to refine them. And you are one of those who have been refined like that. You have walked through trials that might have destroyed others. You still know how to love even though you were hurt by the very ones you trusted. You still strive to be kind even though some have taken advantage of that kindness. Even when you are exhausted, you stand up again. And each time you rise is proof that you are stronger than the version of yourself from yesterday. Jung once said, "There's no coming to consciousness without pain. A soul that has never been wounded cannot understand the depth of human nature. A heart that has never cracked cannot hold a great love. And a spirit that has never walked through the night cannot truly see the light." If you are carrying wounds that others cannot understand, it is because you are walking a path not everyone is chosen for. Not because God wants you to suffer, but because He wants you to live deeply, to be strong, to be real. Sign 3. There's always a mysterious spiritual fire burning inside you. When you have walked through wounds that no one understands, something else begins to rise within you, quiet yet intense. It is no longer the feeling of pain, but the feeling of being compelled, an unexplainable longing. A flame that no one can see with their eyes, but you can feel clearly with every breath. It makes you unable to live superficially, unable to pretend you do not hear the calling echoing inside. That spiritual fire is not lit by external circumstances. It is born from the deepest place in your soul. For Jung, this is a clear sign that the self, the sacred center of the soul, is inviting you to come closer. When the self speaks, you begin to feel an inner urge that the ego cannot control. It is like standing at the threshold of something greater, even though you cannot name it. You no longer feel at peace living the way you used to. You can no longer compromise with what is bland and empty. You even feel restless when you ignore your intuition, as if you are betraying your own true nature. Some call it the call of God. Some call it the voice of the soul. Jung calls it the compulsion of the spirit. Whatever name you give it, the essence is the same. You are being awakened. Many people have told me they do not understand why, even when they are tired, wounded, and sometimes feel no joy left, they still cannot let go of their spiritual path. Even in seasons when they grow cold, when they drift away from what is sacred, when they try to live like a normal person, after a while that flame burns even stronger. It is like trying to cover a glowing ember with a blanket, yet the warmth still spreads, still stings your hand slightly, reminding you that it has never gone out. Some people say they spent their entire youth chasing meaningless goals, KPIs, deadlines, personal achievements, certificates neatly framed on the office wall. They lived in a world of spreadsheets, online meetings, work messages sent at 1 a.m., where everything can be measured except peace. But the higher they climbed in that system, the more they felt an inner void growing larger, a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot cure, an emptiness no trip can fix, a sense of living someone else's life. Jung once said, "Man cannot stand a meaningless life." That is precisely why those who are chosen cannot live aimlessly, cannot live on hollow values. You are pulled toward depth. Even when the road is full of trials, if you live only to survive, to make money, to please others, there is something inside you that keeps calling you to move closer to the light, to the truth, to the core of who you really are. Sometimes you try to ignore that calling. You tell yourself you are too busy, too tired, too wounded to think about the spiritual life. But the more you try to avoid it, the stronger it returns. It is as if God has placed a spark inside you, and every time you abandon it, He gently blows on it, so it flares up just when you think you have gone cold to remind you that your soul was not born to live halfway. This flame is not like ordinary enthusiasm. Enthusiasm can die when you fail, when you lose interest, when life does not go your way. But spiritual fire is different. Even when you turn your back on it, it is still there. Even when you fall, it does not blame you. Even when you get lost, it does not dim. It is like the warmth of a secret summer inside you. This flame also makes you different. When you talk about deep things, not everyone understands. When you mention intuition, many dismiss it as fantasy. When you say you feel called into a larger journey, they tell you that you are overthinking. But the truth is, they do not hear what you hear. They do not see the subtle signs appearing in your life. They do not sense the vague yet powerful movements taking place in your soul. Only those who have been awakened understand that kind of inner urging. Sign 4. You are attacked by invisible battles, and from that very flame, another phenomenon begins to appear, silent yet undeniable. Like a shadow stretching behind each step of someone walking closer to the light. Just as you go deeper into the journey of your soul, the darkness begins to move as well. This is no coincidence. It is a law. Jung once said that the closer you move toward the light, the stronger the darkness becomes. And you begin to feel this through long, restless nights, inexplicable anxiety-filled days, thoughts that spiral out of control, fears no one else can see. You do not need anyone to attack you from the outside. Your own mind has already become a battlefield. One part of you wants to rise, to change, to live true to the calling within. Another part pulls you down, reminding you of limits, fears, and old memories. Jung calls this struggle the conflict between ego and self. The ego fears change. The self wants you to evolve, and you stand between these two forces, exhausted, yet still having to keep walking. Many people say it feels as if there is an invisible force resisting every effort they make. Every time they want to do something good for themselves, pray, meditate, journal, heal, change a habit, something happens to pull them back. They wake up with inexplicable fatigue. Their mind feels shrouded in fog. Even the smallest tasks feel heavy. What they do not know is that these are signs of the invisible battles that the chosen often have to endure. A typical example in today's world, right in the seasons when someone decides to change their life, suddenly everything around them spirals out of control. Work brings unexpected problems that leave them no time for themselves. An ex unexpectedly returns, stirring up emotions they thought were closed. Their mood suddenly drops without any clear reason. Everything feels like a headwind blowing into their life, just as they start to get better. If you look through God's eyes, you will see that these things are not random. A soul that is waking up often attracts both light and darkness. Light, because you are stepping onto the right path. Darkness, because the old parts within you do not want to lose control. It is not demons in the religious sense. It is the repressed parts, the unhealed wounds, the fears long buried. As you step higher, they rise to demand to be seen. This is resistance which every transformative journey must pass through. The greatest invisible battle is not with the world, but with your own mind. You feel guilty when you choose yourself. You start doubting when you become stronger. You fear being left behind when you change. You fear losing what is familiar. What you do not realize is that every time you face these emotions, you are wrestling with layers of shadow you have carried for many years, perhaps many lifetimes of the soul. Jung said, "What we do not make conscious emerges later as fate. The unconscious only disappears when it is brought into awareness." And these invisible battles are precisely the way the soul brings shadow into the light. You are not being punished. You are being purified. This is the invisible war, and you have already walked through it in your own very personal way. No one knows about the nights you have faced your racing mind. No one hears the inner dialogue between the part of you that wants to live and the part that wants to give up. No one sees you wrestling with memories you thought you had already overcome. But God sees, and your soul knows. These battles have only one purpose: to move you from your old version into a stronger, more mature one, not to knock you down, but to show you how many times you truly can rise. And if you are in that invisible war right now, do not be afraid. The chosen always go through it. Because only those who carry a great assignment are tested this deeply. And only those whose light is strong enough can make the darkness fight this fiercely. Sign 5. You crave inner purity more than the world's approval. If in the previous part you clearly felt that the darkness wanted to hold you back, then in this part you will begin to see that the light within you is demanding absolute purity. Not purity in a rigid moral sense, but purity of intention, of honesty with yourself, of no longer living in betrayal of your own soul. This is a Jungian sign of the process of individuation. When a person begins to shed the stiff persona to become more real, more whole, more accurate to the essence they were born with, the interesting thing is that this process often arrives very naturally. One day you realize that you no longer want to prove anything. You are no longer drawn to applause, praise, or approving glances the way you once were. Instead, you start caring more about how you feel when you stand in front of the mirror, when you sit alone at night, when you have a silent conversation with God or with the deepest part of your soul. You look back at the competitions, the showing off, the shallow conversations full of the desire to impress, and you simply feel yourself gently stepping back. This is not you despising the world. You are just beginning to respect yourself. Jung once said that when the soul steps into the journey of maturity, a person begins to see the true value of silence, of truth, of living in alignment with their spiritual self. And that is exactly what is happening within you, a subtle yet very clear shift. Instead of wanting others to see you as good, you want to be real. Instead of wanting others to love you, you want your heart to no longer feel guilty. Instead of wanting to stand in the middle of the crowd, you want to stand in the stillness of your own inner peace. In the modern world where everyone is racing to be seen, you simply want to be seen by yourself. When social media turns validation into a kind of currency, you feel estranged from it. You may once have been happy when your post got many likes, many comments. But now you read your own words and ask, am I living truthfully? That truth matters more than being noticeable. When God chooses a woman for a sacred journey, the first thing he does is uproot what is fake in her heart, because he wants to protect her from things unworthy of her soul. The world's recognition may make you shine for a moment, but inner purity makes you shine for a lifetime. A chosen woman understands that true light does not come from how others look at her, but from a heart that is no longer divided. There are very small but very clear signs. You start feeling drained every time you have to pretend. You feel uncomfortable when you have to smile to please others while your soul is starving for truth. You no longer feel at ease in relationships built on benefit. You no longer want to chase trends just to avoid being left behind. And more strangely, this purity does not make you weaker, it makes you stronger, because you begin to know what you want and what you no longer want. In Jungian psychoanalysis, this is the stage where the soul is called out of the darkness of identification with society, with expectations, with masks. But when the self awakens, it demands that you live in wholeness. No cheating, no lying to yourself, no selling your soul in exchange for temporary applause. Inner purity also leads you to choose a different way of living. You do not want meaningless arguments, deceit, proving yourself, comparison. Instead, you want peace, truth, and to live lighter, deeper, more rightly. And when a woman craves inner purity more than the world's approval, that is always a very clear sign. She is stepping into the land of her destiny. She does not need applause. She needs truth. She does not need to be seen. She needs to be seen through. And it is precisely then that God begins to use her in the way he intended from the very beginning. Sign 6. You feel other people's pain intensely when you begin to crave inner purity more than the world's approval. Another door in your soul also opens. It is the door of empathy. The strange thing is that as you become more real, more pure, more profound, you begin to perceive the world with new ears, new eyes, and a heart so sensitive that sometimes it leaves you exhausted. You do not only see what people say, you feel what they do not say. You do not only hear their laughter, you hear the notes of sorrow beneath that laughter. You do not only see their faces, you see the subtle cracks that most people never notice. Inner transformation makes you more sensitive to human suffering. It is as if you have been given an invisible pair of antennas that pick up the emotional frequencies others are trying to hide. Jung once said that those who go deep into the journey of individuation often develop an intuition so strong that they touch the unconscious of others without effort. This is not a supernatural power, it is the result of your soul becoming clear enough to perceive what others cannot. You start seeing life not through people's actions, but through the deeper motives beneath them. When someone explodes in anger, you do not only see rage, you see unhealed hurt. When someone appears cold, you do not only see indifference, you sense the fear of being wounded that made them build that wall. When someone succeeds for no apparent reason and then suddenly falls into emptiness, you understand that their soul is crying out in a way no one hears. Your empathy is not rational. It is the vibration of the soul, and only souls that have truly suffered can resonate at that frequency. From a sacred perspective, those chosen by God are often given a soft heart so they can see another's pain even before that person realizes it themselves. God does not use hardened hearts to heal the world. He uses hearts that have cracked, because those fractures create openings through which love can flow. Just as an instrument only vibrates when it meets a sound at the same frequency, your soul is the same. It vibrates when it encounters pain similar to what you have endured, because you do not only understand through the mind, you understand through emotional memory, through experience, through each wound that has left a mark on your heart. And like a delicate radar, you detect the energy in a room with just one glance. You see someone holding back tears. You know someone is bearing something they are not saying. You read emotion in the smallest details, the way they sigh, the way they send a very short message, the way they force a smile, the way they avoid eye contact. Sometimes as soon as they walk in, you already feel their exhaustion as if it is touching your own body. However, the most important thing is that this empathy does not make you judge, it makes you love. It makes you want to uplift. It makes you look at people with softer eyes, even when they behave badly. You no longer react with anger as easily as before. Instead, you quietly ask, what have they gone through to become like this? That is the question of a called soul. But be honest with yourself. Sometimes this ability to feel others' pain makes you so tired you want to shut down. There are days when you feel as if your heart is flooded with emotions that are not yours. You do not understand why a single word, a single expression, a single message can hurt you on behalf of someone else. You ask yourself, why am I this sensitive? Why does everything reach so deep into me? Yet in those very moments you must remember one truth. This is not a burden, it is a covenant. In Jungian thought, this is a clear sign of the healer archetype. A true healer does not heal with advice nor with knowledge, but with a heart wide enough to hold another's pain without losing themselves. That is not a weakness, it is a gift, but a gift that requires maturity to be used correctly. If you listen deeply, you will realize that empathy is the language of the soul. It connects you to the world in ways no one sees, but that are very real. It reminds you that people are not just their outer image, but untold stories. It gives you the ability to see them from the inside out, instead of just from the outside in. And sometimes a single heart that knows how to listen is enough to save someone. This is the natural outcome. Your heart becomes as subtle as water, gentle, flexible, yet impenetrable. You feel other people's pain, not because you are weak, but because your soul is vast enough to hold even what you have never personally experienced. And that capacity is not strange. It is the sign of someone being prepared to bring healing into the world in a way only God and you truly understand. Sign 7. You want to build rather than boast. And when your heart has become sensitive enough to feel the pain of others, you step into an even deeper stage of maturity. This is when you realize that life is no longer a stage for fighting over the spotlight. It feels more like a field where you want to quietly sow seeds, not to prove anything, but to create something of real value. After all the inner transformations, separation, wounding, awakening, battling, purification, And empathy, you have come to understand the true nature of applause. It comes and goes. It does not feed the soul. It does not build anything lasting. And more importantly, it makes people easily forget that we are here to grow, not just to be seen. This is why you no longer feel passionate about showing off like before. In fact, you feel tired of having to perform a certain version of yourself just to fit society as expectations. You want to live a quiet yet solid life, a life where results speak more than words, a life where you stand behind the curtain more than under the spotlight. Jung once said that the ego always wants to be recognized, but the true self only wants to fulfill its task. And you have begun to live that way without even realizing it. There is a subtle shift within you. You no longer need anyone to see you to feel your own worth. You do not need praise to know you are on the right path. You do not need to be welcomed to know where you belong. You know that true value is expressed in what you build, not in what you display. From God's perspective, this carries a special meaning. He does not choose those who are loud, showy, or easily swayed. He chooses those who know how to work in silence, who know how to plant seeds without demanding that others witness it. Because the most sacred things are always built in silence. The strongest sprout always grows underground before it ever touches the light. And a chosen woman understands that true achievement does not need clapping, it needs a foundation. In the modern world, you can see this very clearly. This is an age where people want to flaunt their results, post their success online before they truly live in that success, be admired more than they want to be strong. But you who have walked a deep inner journey see it differently. You feel that showing off is too loud, too fragile. And you no longer want to be part of that race. You want to build. You want to create something with depth, with meaning, with a life that outlasts time. Some build a business, some build a family, some rebuild themselves. Whatever it is, you want it to be real. You do not need everyone to see it. You only need it to have strong roots. There was someone who once tried to prove her success by buying luxury items, traveling in style, and appearing at gatherings just to be admired. But one day she realized those things made her more tired than happy. She began to withdraw. She spent time learning, building her skills, developing her work, and investing in long-term values. When she went quiet, people thought she had disappeared. But in truth, she was building a life she had never shown anyone. In Jungian analysis, this is the stage where a person becomes center-oriented, meaning they no longer chase the external, but return to the inner axis. Those who live from the center do not need to compete. They understand that each person has their own path, their own assignment, their own tempo. They do not run to be fast. They run to be sure, not so others can see where they are going, but so they themselves know where they stand. True maturity makes you understand that boasting is a symptom of insecurity, while building is a sign of inner strength. You do not like talking too much about your plans, you act. You do not like displaying what you do, you let the results speak. You do not need to be better than anyone else. You only need to be better than who you were yesterday. When God chooses someone, He hands them a brick, then another. He wants them to build, because only what is built by real hands will endure. The spotlight can shut off. Admiration can shift elsewhere. But what you build from your soul will stand firm even as the world keeps changing. Conclusion. The journey of being chosen is not a medal to hang on your chest. It is more like an invitation to step out of your old role, to leave the places your soul no longer belongs to, and to return as the keeper of the flame within you. You may still be afraid, still confused, still looking back. That is all right. What matters is not how strong you already are, but whether you dare to be a little more honest with yourself each day. If there is one final thing I want to leave with you, it is this. Do not rush to judge your journey. What looks like chaos today may one day, when you look back, turn out to have been the way God in your soul secretly led you home, to where you were always meant to be.